Hello, hello, hello. We are live, loud, and in color. And today we are live on Kick as well. Oh, wow. Officially. First time on Kick. Oh, no. Oh, no. It didn't work out. Kick did not work out. All right. Let's remove it and then maybe we can add it later. Oh, here we go. Oh, I remember. Uh, no, we might not have time for that. We might not have time for that. We about to get in here, get in here. Let me stop before y'all know when he goes, get in here, get in here. What is my password? Okay, so we might not be able to do Kick today. We could try. Oh. Uh, 9. Uh, 3, 2. Accept, allow access. Okay, I think we are live on Kick. I think so. We might be. All right, now let's go to song. Need to tune into the Zoom. Here we go. Passcode. Go in, and I'm gonna stream it on here. I'm gonna try to stream it on here as well. I asked for permission. So let's go. Do I join the breakout room? I think so. Okay. Do I join the breakout room? It seems like it's prompting me to join. Okay. Perfect. Okay, we'll do. Yes, that is correct. Hello. No. Oh, awesome, awesome. And just so that you know, I asked for permission to share this panel with my stream, so I'm gonna go ahead and share it now if that's okay. Yeah. Perfect. Share.
Okay,
Click
I
share.
will be back, you guys. Oh, wrong button.
And let's put the view correctly. Gallery view. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now it's streaming live. You guys, I'm excited. It's only one or two, y'all. But yeah, I'm excited. Let's see. All right, they're gathering. I think it's one more person left that they're waiting on, and then we will start. So, all righty, this is exciting. Is that the best way? Yeah, I guess that's the best way. Yeah, we'll leave it that way. And then I'm also going to put the Zoom link on the screen in case anyone wants to join. You can also, if you want to join directly the Zoom, in case you want to, I don't know, ask questions or something, like directly to the panelists. Yep, there we go. That's the ticker. Oh, I don't know if that's the most effective way to do it. Let's see. Is there another Zoom link? Yeah, there is another Zoom. Can I copy this? Or maybe I'll just put the meeting ID. Zoom meeting ID. Let's do that. Let's put the Zoom meeting ID. And I don't think you need the password because I think they disabled it because I just clicked it on again. So we'll just put the meeting ID and that's that. And as a ticker, yeah, that's a ticker. Zoom meeting ID. Yeah. All right. So we're just waiting on one panelist to join in. But if you are joining me right now, then hello, hello, hello. It's your boy, Stimulator, aka Dr. DJ Mook. DJ Dr. Mook. And yeah, today is a special kind of day because we are participating in the Soul Cycle Black Men in STEM panel. I'm looking forward to talking to three other Black men in STEM who are doing really groundbreaking things in their own fields. Talk about, how do we manage stress? How to avoid burnout? Some of the techniques that you utilize in these really stressful industries, could be applied generally across other industries. And so not only am I looking to give advice and give tricks and tips, but I'm also looking to receive some of those tricks and tips from others as well. And also just to all around network, it seems like the panel seems to be a group of quite distinguished gentlemen. So very soon, I think we'll start introductions, but I actually posted the flyer. You'll see there is Damani Bonds, there's Jason Bradshaw, there's Marquise Simmons, and myself. And so I'm looking forward to the fiery conversation that we will have today. Hopefully, I think people are just leaving. I just heard from the facilitator right now that people are just leaving the there's a workout session that was before this. And so soon after everybody populates in here, then we can begin. And most likely we'll start with introductions once again. So stick around, y'all. Stick around. And I'm going to post this on my Instagram so that anyone wants to join us now. Then they can join. Okay. Okay. Oh, yeah.
Hello,
I see
hello.
people joining in. Okay, let's switch over.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
gonna put my camera on real quick. Before our panel starts, I did want to introduce some of the community partners that we have. I'm going to walk through two, and then I'll walk through others after, and then we'll be able to jump into the panel. So one of our community partners is Smooth September, founded by a Jamaican artist and photographer, Demetrius Phillip. Began from his passion for blending Caribbean fruits and herbs into flavorful, healthy juices and teas. He launched in 2021. The company is committed to all natural, nutrient-rich beverages, sustainable packaging, and delivering a smooth, refreshing taste rooted in Caribbean culture. So you all are able to grab tea at a discount because you're here. Also, Nubia's Delights LLC is a Black woman-owned bakery inspired by the elegance of the 1950s. French pastries infused with soul. They specialize in custom show-stopping cakes for life's more meaningful events where beauty and taste are given equal attention. And for the Soul Sync virtual wellness experience, again, they'll be able to unveil its highly anticipated cookie and cake jar collection, reimagining indulgence through the lens of French artistry. Excuse me. Each offering is crafted to be savored like a secret and remembered like a kiss. So thank y'all for our community partners for being able to work with us on this event. And I believe Gabe is going to take it away for our Black Men in STEM panel.
Hey everybody. So yes, my name is Gabe. I'm with the Wellness Committee with STEM Social. Yes, for this next part of the panel, we'll be having our Black Men in STEM panel, pretty much where we have Black men within the STEM field pretty much go over their journey in terms of how they got in the field, and then also we'll do some I'll ask some questions for them amongst their journey, and then we'll have some time for Q&A afterwards. So with our panelists, I want to just give a brief introduction of who they are and their journey. So our first panelist will be Damani Barnes. With Damani Barnes, he's a dynamic scientist and healthcare professional with a background in biotechnology, molecular biology, and process development. A graduate of Johns Hopkins University, Damani has led impactful research in genetic medicine and advanced manufacturing operations within the cell and gene therapy industry. His work spans genetic research on cystic fibrosis, adeno-associated virus, production for gene therapy, and cross-functional leadership and biopharmaceutical manufacturing. Passionate about integrating science with compassionate care, Damani is committed to driving innovation with meaningful purpose that improves patient outcomes while actively advocating for representation and mental wellness among the Black STEM professionals. And then our next panelist is Dr. Mook, PhD. He is a protein engineer, science communicator, and founder of Stimulator LLC, which is a platform blending STEM with pop culture to engage in diverse audiences. Trained under Nobel laureate David Baker, he earned his PhD in biochemistry from the University of Washington and currently serves as the principal scientist and protein engineering at Pledge Therapeutics. Dr. Mook's work fuses structural biology, storytelling, and education, bringing molecules to life through art, hip hop, and interactive media. And our next panelist is Jason Bradshaw. Jason Bradshaw is a platform engineer at Perry Labs and a passionate STEM advocate within his community, serving as a dedicated technology mentor. As the National Webmaster for Black Data Processing Associates, BDPA, and a member of the board of the STEM Alliance of North Alabama, he leverages his technical skills and leadership to support those vital organizations. As an active member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, he utilizes his technology skills to assist with youth development and community uplift. As the past president of the Huntsville chapter of BDPA, he spearheaded impactful initiatives that provided over 150 students with crucial STEM skills and pathways. His entrepreneurial drive is evident in the Bradshaw Tech and Designs LLC and the highly successful Code Sip Repeat workshops, where he fosters a vibrant learning environment, offers hands-on coding experiences for tech enthusiasts of all levels. Lastly, and most importantly, Jason takes great pride in being an active father in his 4 children's lives. So I just want to give a brief introduction of our panelists that we will have today. So the first thing we'll start off with, and this is the question for all the panelists here. So growing up, did you always see yourself within the STEM field, or was that something that was developed later on in your journey?
I was gonna say, Jason, you want to start first?
That's fine. Good morning, everybody. And first off, thank you all for having me. So did I always see myself being in the STEM field? Not necessarily. My initial goals when I was in high school was to be a veterinarian. And that quickly shifted when I realized that a veterinarian had to go to school around the same amount of time as a regular doctor. So that quickly shifted to something that was a little more obtainable, which ended up being computer science and technology. So that shifted very quickly for me. So to answer that briefly.
Good morning, everyone. To answer his question, I would say no. I was kind of I'm from Florida, so I had a non-traditional, well, I guess you're a traditional route of I wanted to play in the NFL. I played college sports, and a lot of my pivots kind of developed me to prepare me for a life in medicine. So to answer that question.
And yeah, I'll round it out. Hello, everybody. Yeah, to answer this question, yes, actually, I'm originally from Zimbabwe. And as a kid, I would play in the backyard, collecting like insects into little jars. And my mom early on said he's either going to be a scientist or he's going to be a serial killer. So we gotta we gotta push him into some STEM schools. So very early on, I kind of knew that I had a career in STEM. I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know what that entailed, and that evolved over time. But yeah, to answer your question.
Okay, thank you. So my next question for all the panelists is pretty much within navigating the STEM space after deciding you want to be in the STEM space and then getting started. So this is a question for each one of you. So with navigating within the STEM space, what has that been like in terms of navigating the corporate politics world as a Black man? And then also, were there ever any moments where you felt out of place? And if you did have those moments with either feeling out of place or navigating the corporate politics, how did you push through that?
Same order, Jason, or do you want me to jump in?
We can switch it up. Go ahead, Dr. Moon.
All right, I'll jump in. Yeah. Quick answer is yeah, always. You always have to navigate the politics of your identity, right? The first thing people see when you walk into a room is not that you're a scientist. That is actually the furthest thing on their mind, typically. As a Black man, I walk into the room, I feel like my presence as a Black person comes in first in the room. My masculinity comes in next, and then anything else comes in after I speak. And that, as you can imagine, poses a challenge for people who have stereotypes already embedded in their heads of what a Black man is, or what a scientist is, and how those two things sometimes contradict their stereotypes and challenge their beliefs. That breeds quite a lot of sometimes hostility that you have to navigate in a workplace setting. And past even a workplace setting, I would say scientists strive for discussions all the time, right? They strive to exchange ideas, sometimes argue on those ideas and those merits. And sometimes those arguments are passionate, but for some reason, when Black men are passionate, that's not read as passion. Sometimes that's read as aggression, that's read as intimidation tactics and the like. And so, yeah, I have actually developed several coping skills over the years. Like I said, I'm from Zimbabwe originally. I came to America at the age of 19. And that's when I started like a full-on career in STEM, in research as an undergrad at an HBCU, Claflin University. Ooh. And so I had like a really good foundation learning about the history and heritage of Black people in America, right? And how that connects with my past as a Black person in Africa. And so I kind of had a really good primer. I feel like I feel like I had a leg up as I entered into corporate America, that what to expect and how to kind of deal with that. There is a bunch of politics that you always have to kind of deal with. And a few tips that I've learned along the way is smiling really goes a long way. Unfortunately, it's part of respectability politics. But if you ask a lot of folks in STEM, a lot of Black men in STEM, you find that smiling is not just a facial feature, but it's also a weapon to disarm quite a lot of engaged stereotypes. And the second thing I will say is allyship. Quickly finding in each and every single position that you're in, your community is so important, and finding the different allies that are rooting in your corner is so important. So yeah, from the time when I was, going to different internships, Yale, Purdue, and then afterwards when I was doing my PhD at the University of Washington, and then after actually starting my biotech career at Novartis Institute for Biomedical Research, and then even in my tenure now as a startup protein engineer and principal scientist, I found there are people who root for me in certain situations, and I've always tried to make sure that I have those people engaged in my community, so I know where to go. Those are the top 2 tips that I have to combat and navigate as a Black man in STEM. I will pass it on.
Oh, you can go for it. You can go.
So similar to what Dr. Mook said, just being in these different spaces does have multiple challenges as a Black man. And, as you see, I'm a Black man with locks and Southern drawl. I come with a different type of demeanor because of my background, where I grew up. So I automatically get looked at as, who is this guy? Why does he need to be in this room with us? So it does come with its different challenges. And a few of the ways that I have coped with it and navigated and pivoted throughout these different challenges is basically just similar to what Dr. Moose said, is alliances, but then also just showing and proving. I'm here because I know what I'm doing. I'm here because I've put in the work to be here. And that in itself, kind of shuts down the negativity and the doubts. And typically throughout my career, I'm usually either the only Black person on the team or one of the few. So I'm often have to kind of navigate a lot of different things on my own. And then, eventually find alliances and with other people within the company. But just to kind of keep my sanity and keep my balance and everything, I've joined different organizations like BDPA, which allows me to congregate and just have fellowship with other people within the field, within my city, and within the country as well. So just having that outlet, so I can talk about technology with people who look like me and understand the trials and tribulations that we go through working in this space, it makes the world of difference. So one of my things I would suggest is join organizations that develop you and allow you to be in your space, like NSB, BDPA, Black Girls Code, etc. And this will allow you to have that community. And then the second thing is just, come ready to show and prove. I mean, just being Black in any of these spaces require you to show up and show out. So that's what we do.
Oh, that was Jason and Dr. Luke kind of hit that on the head. So it's going to be hard to follow up as far as the community aspect of this conversation. So I'll bring a different perspective. I've been in predominantly white spaces probably since the start of middle school. So my maturation and confidence has been the more challenging aspect in these spaces. So I'll use the terminology of locus of internal intrinsic control. So in every spaces that are I mean, I'm prominently, I'm an African American, so I kind of bring attention to in every room that I step into. I've kind of tried to focus more on the self-development aspect, because really in these spaces that are like familiar or unfamiliar, you're kind of like, it's really just you and you as far as like your development, how you grow and improve in these spaces will be the conversations of allies and community based. But I've seen to be, it's a lot easier to cope with when I think about my self-development and how I can utilize this environment to kind of grow me. And that's kind of how you start working the room, meeting certain communities. I have more of a corporate role now, so I talk to my GM and my senior directors every day. And it's always good to kind of, like, you have a presence in the room, but you also have a level of respect for your expertise and what you do. And I always tell them, like, hey, you can, at a certain point, you have to walk the talk, right? So if you don't know what you're doing and you're putting yourself in a position of an experience, of the lack of experience that you don't have, it's going to show up. So when I put myself in these positions, it's not because I'm bluffing, essentially. It's no, I have the confidence and can be successful in making decisions to making our business successful. So, but once you think, I guess, intrinsically, when you think about how you've had these recent experience to develop in certain spaces like this, usually the results will follow. But it does come with a challenging atmosphere when you walk in confidence. So my perspective of this conversation is take this environment of unfamiliar spaces and identify how you can grow yourself to kind of really thrive, and also outsource, because I'm a small percent of many statistics. So I'm always looking for, I guess, people that look like me to pour into them so that they can pass it on, because more representation is what I got into STEM for. I met someone that looked like me that gave me confidence, and it's like, you can do it. And that's usually all you need to really excel from what you thought your limitations were. So.
And just to kind of piggyback on that last statement that Damani said, that's why I take such pride in mentorship. You know, I probably, if I list them out, I have probably about 10 to 15 mentees, but then I also have about 10 to 15 mentors. So that's that community aspect is very vital. And then you kind of grow the community when you start mentoring. So I love that point, Damani.
Thank you.
For previous question. First off, Damani, and then I know that
I was gonna say,
You're
Hold on.
kind of choppy.
I don't know if it's just me. Sorry, Gabe. Try again.
now,
Give me 1 second.
Okay, a little
My
choppy.
apologies. Technical difficulties.
Oh, so I took my AirPods out. How does the sound quality sound better now?
Much better.
Okay, perfect.
Wow.
So with the next question, first I'll address it to Damani, and then the panel can follow up afterwards. So I know what Damani mentioned originally with your STEM journey, that you originally, prior to that, you were thinking like NFL, football maybe, but like this question is for you, and then the panel can follow up. So what do you wish you feel like you had known when you started in your STEM journey that could have made your journey a little bit easier?
oh man, that's a good one. So I would say the same thing that I learned when I ended my football career is what which is what I actually tried to be intentional. And that is leaning more on my faith, knowing that the experiences that God exposed me to prepared me for where I am now. And then just exercising that faith, knowing that I have the ability and the confidence to do and to thrive in the spaces of STEM. That was one thing that it's kind of easier said than done when you have to exercise it. Not to go all like spiritual. I know everybody has their own religious beliefs, but from my personal experiences, that was one thing that was with me when I started, and was with me when I finished my football career. And the same thing for my STEM is with me now, and it's going to carry me throughout my career. So.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Yeah, I agree with what Damani and Jason was saying early on about mentorship, and I wish I had known before my STEM career that the lessons that I was picking up as a mentee, I would be in a position to pass on now as a mentor, because I feel like I would have taken more copious notes. And then to piggyback off what Damani just said, I think bringing your whole self to your STEM career is something that is extremely important, and that may be faith in what Damani was mentioning, but it could also be your entire identity, right? Like, we often think we want to keep the fact that we are Black men sort of like out of the table, but it's not a secret. You cannot hide is the thing, the thing about being one of a few in STEM is that oftentimes you are the only Black person in the room, right? You're the only Black man in the room, in a meeting, in a conference, in a lecture, in many different settings. And so you cannot hide the fact that you're Black. Like, that's just not possible. A lot of people try to shrink or to, subdue that fact or whatever. I would say early on in my career, sometimes it's something that I attempted to do, but the thing is, you will always stick out. You are literally, and this is a turn of phrase, but odd one out. So people are going to look at you, whether with perceived notions, stereotypes, or even with like expectations, like good expectations or bad. All of that is it's not a blank slate that everyone else is starting off at. You're starting off at a expectation state. And so the thing I wish I had known early on is to embrace it wholly, step into it fully, come, almost take advantage of that spotlight, and really shine. As Jason was saying, show your performance, show that you are here for a purpose. Not only will that help your colleagues get to understand you on an individual level and break the ice and break away those stereotypes, but also it helps your future self. I struggled a lot with imposter syndrome, a lot. Being in these places, predominantly white, with really accomplished and intelligent people, I had imposter syndrome, which a lot of scientists have imposter syndrome, but I feel like mine was also sort of like doubled with race, because it was like, I'm looking around and there's nobody that looks like me. Maybe there's a reason. Maybe I shouldn't be here. Was that question that creeped in. And the only way you can battle imposter, because that's imposter syndrome, because that's not true. We belong in all the spaces, okay? Any space that we ought to be, we belong in those spaces. But the only thing that you can battle against imposter syndrome is evidence of your performance, evidence of your excellence. When you see how you're performing with your colleagues, your mentorship journey, how you are raising other folks into a different level, how you are passing down this knowledge to a different level that allows others to succeed. When you see that evidence, you cannot deny that you belong in that space. And so, yeah, these are some things that I wish I had known before entering STEM.
I guess I'll round it out. It's gonna be hard to follow both of those, because those are two very good points. Faith and just coming as your whole self. But I guess for me, the imposter syndrome was there for a long time. Like Dr. Mook said, it's just because one is that, like he said, just am I supposed to be here? But then once you kind of get past that and you show and prove it, you become the subject matter expert. You become the go-to person when when everything falls apart and everybody's looking at you like, can you fix it? I'm like, yeah, I got it. That, and having that confidence and knowing that I'm going to take care of it and it's done, and I already know what the problem is. I'm getting ready to fix it, and it builds your confidence. So to answer the question is just believing in myself, not second guessing myself. Like I said before, I'm in this space because I've learned, I've put myself in this position. I've learned, I've grown, I've done the work to be here, and just having more faith in myself and not doubting myself. I think that's what I would. Um, that's how I would answer your question.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that, everybody, for that response. So I know based on some of the prior questions, a common thing that we covered is within like the STEM field, within all your journeys within the STEM field, but advice for everyone else is like having mentors, but also finding community as well within your spaces within the STEM field. So my next question, I'll start off with you, Jason. You were the first one that brought it up, but how do you build relationships and find tribes and find your tribe in fields that sometimes feel isolating? And also, what was a challenge that you faced within finding that tribe or building that mentorship? And then we can follow the rest of the panelists as well.
I mean, that's a great question. Um, just for me personally, it was I had the desire to find people that look like me in my space. So that kind of forced me to start looking for organizations that represented technology but had a Black focus. So for me, like I said, Black Data Processing Associates, or BDPA, was the organization that helped me do that. But outside of BDPA, just not being afraid to reach out to people like on LinkedIn and just say, hey, I see we in the same space, I just want to connect, and just starting things like that. But then that also led me to start my company, my workshops, Code Sip Repeat, to kind of help break some of those stereotypes around technology, and bring a fun and inclusive environment where people feel welcome, and it allows people to learn and engage at the same time. So just not being afraid to reach out and connect with other people that look like me in this space.
I guess I'll go next. Actually, I would say the same thing as far as like intentionality. For me, it would be the representation. There's so many successful people that I grew up with that had the aptitude to do the same thing, but more importantly, there's actually more people than I think who are actually doing the same thing in spaces like I'm doing. So actually, there was an advice that I got from someone, shout out to Adriana on this call, about building a board of trustees for your future. So if there's something in a space that you want to do, identifying who's doing it successfully, and building community and mentorship around them. And that was like really sound advice. And I encourage everyone to do so, even within representation. This is like something that I'm currently working on now, but I love the idea of like every asset. You have your 9 to 5 of what you want to do. Maybe you want to be a real estate, like building mentorships who can kind of pour water and growth into what you're trying to do. So great sound advice.
Yeah, I mean, tribe is extremely important in finding yours early on in your STEM career. Is a survival technique, honestly. And so, yeah, I think we've already listed a couple organizations that a lot of Black men in STEM rely on. I'm just going to list a couple others that I have sort of engaged with. I will start with NSBE, is the one I think that everyone talked about, National Society for Black Engineers. But I also want to highlight Black Greek letter organizations. I'm an Alpha. I know Jason mentioned he's a Sigma as well. So, definitely this is the source of community. I would also say looking at not just Black orientated organizations, but also other marginalized groups, organizations helps with the numbers, because ultimately it is a numbers game when it comes to STEM, because it's very few underrepresented minority folks in STEM. And so I would say leaning to groups like Women in STEM, like they might not experience your exact sort of like path, but there's a rhyme and reason that you guys kind of fellowship with, women in STEM experience quite a lot of the microaggressions that Black people in STEM experience. And then the intersection of that being Black women in STEM, they experience both. And so really finding fellowship within those communities is good for you to find community, but also for you to also aid with whatever privilege that you might come with in that area. In that same realm, I would say SACNAS, Society for Advancement for Chicanos and Native Americans in Science. This community has been so welcoming to me ever since, ever since undergrad. They are a national organization with several opportunities and fellowships and geared towards Latinos and Native Americans in science, but a lot of Black people are involved within those communities as well. And then I would say also fellow immigrant communities that may identify as Black, right? And so ISA, International Students Association, these are usually typically all in every campus, but then there are also more specific organizations like African Alliances and as well as Africans in STEM Alliance organizations. All of these communities, I feel like, they're Black as well. So they're going through quite a lot of similar things. Then there's this added thing of being an immigrant. And I feel like a lot of us Africans or Black immigrants really rely on Black Americans to show us the way. So oftentimes when we're starting in on this journey, and so these are communities that I feel like a lot of Black Americans would be welcomed with open arms. And so I would definitely look into those. And then lastly, I would say, as a gay man, I would I'll be remiss to not mention some of the LGBTQ Alliance areas. They are Black LGBTQ folks, okay? And so definitely finding community with LGBTQ folks makes sense. And there's always welcoming for allies, that is straight allies. And so I think these are also communities that we can go. I know that there's a bit more debate over there, so I'm not gonna linger too much on that, but it is there for those who need it and those who want it. And I love what Camille said in the chat, that STEM social was actually born from this desire to find community, to find tribes, and congregate within that. And so I feel like we're already doing that right now. And yes, in what Jason and Damani already said, it requires a willing heart and an outgoing personality to actually go for what you want and find those communities. I would plug in that Stimulator is trying to build its own community as well. My company, that's what I focus on, trying to build community on STEM and arts, and try to make sure that the next generation definitely has this tribe that they can rely on and troubleshoot and find tools as they move forward within their careers.
Perfect. I love these answers and these responses. So I'll start the first question off for Dr. Meek, and then everyone else can follow up on the panel. So one thing you mentioned about within breaking into the STEM field about like breaking stereotypes and misconceptions. So how important is it to be likable at work? And what are some misconceptions that people have about Black men in STEM, and how do you handle that? And then everyone else can follow up on the panel.
Can you repeat those questions? Sorry.
Sure. So the question I have, because you were like the first one that mentioned about breaking stereotypes early on within standing out. So my question is for you, and then everyone on the panel, is how important is it to be likable at work? And then what are some common misconceptions that people have about Black men in STEM, and how do you handle those?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it is very important to be likable at work. It is very unfortunate. I think a lot of us have the mindset of merit first, because that is what people say, right? Merit goes above everything else. And that is true. But once you get the job and now you're in a community, it is important for people to feel safe. Okay. It's important for people to like you. And unfortunately, in corporate world, and I would even say in academia in general, part of your job, as a Black man, is to mitigate people's feelings and make sure they do feel safe. I kind of loop it back to the smile conversation. You can ignore it. You definitely can. You can definitely have a career in STEM as a Black man by ignoring it and just, do you, and don't even worry about, how they feel about you. I think it's a harder journey. I think it's a harder path. I think an easier path is having empathy. Yeah, having empathy of, okay, folks who might have not, who, like, I've met several people who have told me to my face that I'm the first Black person that has been their friend, or first Black person who they've had like interactions with. And so the empathy there is, oh, so this person has all these, preconceived notions that are built from TV and movies and nothing in real life. And now they're having to apply some of that in a workplace environment. So my empathy there is, okay, they might not always do or say the right thing. And I have to kind of, navigate that situation. Yes, it sucks for me, because why do I have to? Why is that on my plate as well? But because I'm here to work, right? But I think it does help when I take the lead in empathy in that realm. It does help everything kind of move forward. If you've watched the movie Sinners, okay, a lot of people just want to have fun, they just want to they just want to have everything go well, and when you disrupt that by bringing in reality of what's in the outside world, of what is sometimes also not your great reality. Oftentimes, as Black folks, what's happening to us as communities isn't really great, but we still have to show up at work. And so the news might be saying something and your colleagues might not know about the news sometimes, even though it's on 24/7. They might not care. Okay, so there's that element. They still wanna go on. They still want it to be a good time. And so compartmentalizing is extremely important. Being able to compartmentalize your emotions is extremely important, I found, in STEM, because not everybody is going to receive the conversation, the real talk conversation about the experience, as a Black man in this world, as a helpful conversation. They might receive that conversation as a different type of situation, work harassment, work, whatever, different types of conversation, and that won't be great. So compartmentalizing is good, and making people feel safe. And then when you feel safe in these different communities, then you vent in those different communities, but not always at work. It's always good to compartmentalize. Yeah. And then your last question was, sorry.
Oh, the other question was, what are some common misconceptions that people have about Black men in STEM? And how do you work past those misconceptions?
Oh, I'll only say one so that I leave more time for Jason and Damani. But one I know is I always get a surprise when people are like, you have a PhD? Oh, okay. And then in science? Oh, in biochemistry? Like I remember, yeah, it's been, that's the thing. This is not one experience, multiple experiences where people have, either preconceived notions of what we can do as Black people in general, or what we should be able to do as Black people. And this is born from what is projected to us in media, right? It's not a lot of, I think we've done a great job since, I guess, in the last probably 5 to 10 years now, being visible scientists in media, so that now a lot of at least young Black folk know that there are Black scientists, and you can be a Black scientist, and you can make as much money as a athlete or as a musician. But what has been proposed quite a lot, what we're fighting against in terms of negative stereotypes, is that Black people cannot be scientists, or Black people are getting to science as a in a different direction, in a different direction that is not merit based, and that's not true. That is not true. We are very much a multicultural, multifaceted group of people, and so of course there are scientists within our communities, and we need Black scientists within our communities to solve problems that have scientific solutions. Otherwise, those problems within our communities will not get solved, right? Hence Flint water crisis and all kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's one stereotype that is always going to be a battle, is the intellectual sort of underestimation. So, yeah.
Thank you for that. And then, sorry, I just want to make a quick adjustment because I know we're pressed for time before our next session. So we actually wanted to switch to the Q&A part because we did have a few questions within the chat. So my questions, and this is for the panelists, what is your response or advice to people who say I don't want to be known as a Black STEM professional, but just a STEM professional?
That's a great question. I guess for me, man, that's a tough one because your identity is very valid, but then at the same time, you don't want to be isolated. So I can understand why there's man, that's a good one. I don't even know how to answer that one. I'm gonna pass.
I'll take it. I got you, Jason. So unfortunately, I actually am very more receptive of a perspective like that. However, here's what I've come to understand. We can kind of remove the ideology of representation if we want to, but numbers don't lie. So yeah, I can have the mindset of hey, I just want to be identified as a STEM, as a scientist. But unfortunately, when you bring statistics, because numbers don't lie, that's that separation of being in this category of African American and salaries or opportunities, that does come into play. Because now it's just well, I have the same addressment, if not more, compare and contrast. And now it's just you kind of have to represent yourself and kind of represent those numbers. I think it was 3% for representation of what I did to get into the grad program at Hopkins. And I have to live in that and embrace that because not only am I addressed in this manner, I'm also an African American who did so. So I kind of take pride in it. It's kind of really hard to separate the two, depending on what the scenario or circumstances is. But respectfully speaking, yes, I am a STEM, but I'm also an African American STEM. So
I'll jump in as well. I worry about that. I understand where it's coming from, but I worry that train of thought is very similar to how celebrities say I'm not Black once they get to a certain upper echelon or whatever, right? And my worry is that having that walking through the world with that belief is that somebody's going to remind you that you are a Black STEM professional, and it might not be in the most flattering sense. And so honestly, embracing it makes the most sense. Embracing it from the get-go allows you not to be surprised by haters, right? But also allows you to contribute to numbers like Damani was saying, so that we can all have resources. Because ultimately, justification for resources is based on needs and numbers. And when you take your number out of the collective, you are leaving the collective without your number, right? You're leaving us with one less within that when we're already a few of us. And so that justification makes it harder for us. And so if you understand the needs for Black people in STEM to have specific resources that have been underutilized or under marginalized for such a long time, then I don't see a problem with embracing it. But I do understand the perspective. I understand it. Yeah.
Thank you for the response. And then we'll do our last Q&A. So what is the difference between Black presence and Black power in STEM, and how do we identify, cultivate, and scale the latter in support of the betterment and uplift of our people?
Can you repeat that?
Sure. So what is the difference between Black presence and Black power in STEM, and how do we identify, cultivate, and scale the latter in support of the betterment and uplift of our people?
That's a good one. So for me, Black presence goes back to what Damani said about percentages in our different environments. Black power is, to me, is the availability to not only mentor but grow these different fields to be better represented by people that look like us. And me personally, I have a passion to getting more Black women into STEM because, I mean, it's hard enough to see Black people, but seeing Black women in STEM is like it's crazy. I can probably name I can probably count on my hand about the amount of women I work with, especially Black women. So, but to answer the question, just having, getting to the points in our careers where we're not just being a number, but we're also helping grow the numbers of people that look like us and making sure that they come to the table ready to make more tables.
Thanks.
Yeah, I like that answer. That was good.
Love that. Yeah.
That was good. I'll give you that one. I would say to complement the power, maybe empowerment. Again, representation and growing numbers answers that perspective, but the power part would definitely be, I guess, empowering our younger youth of African Americans and representation, both male and female, of STEM. I think I grew up in proximity of the lower socioeconomic class, so I was never told that I was going to be a doctor. I was only told I was going to be an athlete. So, like the empowerment of meeting someone like Jason or Dr. Luke, and the Boys and Girl Club, and teaching me about DNA, like empowering those kids is definitely how we're going to do it and grow. So,
Yeah, I love both of those responses. I will go from a different perspective. I think Black presence is representation, as what we're all hearing, being able to have, more Black people in STEM. And I long for the day that we are no longer underrepresented. I long for the day when we can just not be underrepresented minorities anymore, and those numbers can match the population dynamics and can match what just makes sense. And I will also iterate specifically for gender, right? Because it's like 50% of the population is women. That's not represented with women in science and women in STEM. It's just not, and it's a crazy situation. I think Black power, I think now kind of begs the question, and maybe I'll throw a question out to folks. Can you think of a Black-owned pharmaceutical company? Can you think of, I know we have Black inventors, Black patents, right? But can you think of a Black-owned drug, right? Like, this is where we're getting into Black power. I think a lot of people in Hollywood have kind of figured this out, right? Like, it started off being, let's get representation in front and behind the camera, and that door has sort of like been kicked down, I feel like, right? And then now there are a lot of Black production companies that have now started making, Black movies. I'm gonna bring Sinners back again, okay? Because I just watched it just recently. That's gonna get Oscars, okay? That's gonna get Oscar buzz. There's gonna be a whole bunch of actors. That's Black power right there, right? Jordan Peele, what he's doing, all this stuff, right? I feel like there is no reason for us to do that, for us not to do that in STEM. And I think we are starting to see emblems of it, but we definitely need to keep the momentum going. And it's definitely something that is entirely possible, especially when there are panels like this, when, when there are discussion forums like this, where you can already see we're all aligned within that goal. Yeah.
Thank you everybody for your answers and everything. I know this is pretty much our time because we have about 5 minutes left before our next session. But yes, I wanted to give an applause for our Black Men in STEM panel and our panelists who took time out today just to share the journey that they had, and as well as like uplift everybody in this workshop and everything. So I do appreciate that. And I'm going to pass it over to Camille, who's going to get us set for our next session, which will be for financial planning.
Y'all ate that up. I have so many thoughts, but we do definitely want to make sure that we're staying on track. I'm going to share my screen Y'all let me know if you see it. Let me move y'all out the way. Hold on a second. Y'all can see that?
Yes.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, cool. So again, thank you all so much. That was so enjoyable. Thank you to the engagement in the chat. I know I was chatting the entire time, but really appreciate everyone's perspectives. I want to highlight 2 other community partners that we have. HBCU STEM Education Run was founded in 2021 with the mission to educate, empower, and elevate HBCU students through scholarships and career resources. Since then, it has expanded into an international community and raised thousands of dollars for the next generation of STEM professionals, which Damani referenced. We really need to pour into our youth.
Yes.
We're happy, or they're happy to sponsor a free entry to their Women in STEM Walkathon, which is an annual virtual competition to rack up as many miles as possible in October supporting HBCU women. So definitely keep that on your radar. And then also, let me get my next slide. Grad Girl Wellness is a comprehensive wellness platform founded by Dr. Angela Crumdy, encourages women to prioritize wellness while pursuing graduate degrees using virtual and in-person events, a podcast, motivational merchandise, and a private accountability group coming in fall 2025, to create a vibrant sense of community that supports students throughout their academic journey and beyond. So I'm always really adamant about, getting Black women in STEM, as Jason referenced, during his talk as well. But just very happy that all of y'all are here to just learn from one another. So we're going to be pivoting into our next part of our session. And I'm going to welcome Kim, or Kimberly. Kimberly is a seasoned financial professional.
So sorry, Camille. Really quick. I don't know if it's me. Your screen's just a little stuck, but maybe it's on my end.
Can y'all see Kim? She's pretty.
We'll just see you, Cam.
No. Okay. I'm seeing the Meet Our Community Partners slide.
Oh,
Yeah.
let's see. Resume? Question mark? Did that do anything?
But what I will do, let me move everybody into Kim's room, and then hopefully that will unstick this, and then we can continue.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you, guys. Bye. Okay. That was so much fun. Yeah. Thank you so much to STEM Social for inviting me to be on the panel to facilitate that talk on Black men in STEM. Shout out to my fellow panelists, Jason and Damani. I think that was a really great conversation. And thank you to Gabriel Smith for hosting that entire discussion. Sometimes, it's like these discussions can go many different ways, because I feel like, and I love that this discussion was centered around impact, around solutions, tools, and real world experiences. It's always fun when that happens. And yeah, I love doing this, y'all. I love doing this. I feel like I'm at this stage in my life now where I'm the one with the opportunity to pass on what I learned over these I would say decade and some change of experiences as a Black man in STEM and in the STEM industry. And if I can pass it on, if I can say something that's going to help someone's journey to be a little bit easier, then maybe all of the downs or microaggressions and whatnot that I've suffered throughout the years, maybe it was all worth it. Maybe it was all worth it because I got to at least pass that on to somebody to make their life easier and better. And that's how I see it. And then at the same perspective, I guess I'm becoming an old head. I found a gray hair today on my mustache, which was so disrespectful. But hey, it's the sign of times, and honestly, it's better than the alternative, being dead. And so, maybe I'm becoming an old head, and I need to step fully into my old headedness, and continue to mentor and pass on what I've learned and also learn from others. Like that opportunity to learn from others is, I love that. I will always take it. I will always take it. Like I learned so much from Damani conversation about moving from, football or athletics into STEM. Like one thing already directly there is that clearly this idea that the pay in STEM is either comparable or similar to that in athletics. This idea that I've always had is true. It's kind of borne out. Look, we have athletes coming into STEM and staying, and being happy within their careers, and then even when you look at Jason, a Black Father, okay, a fellow Black Greek Letter organization member, shout out to Jason. I learned quite a lot with some of his responses along the lines of Black power and Black empowerment, and the focus for mentorship towards women in STEM, Black women in particular, as well as the youth, and so yeah, I learned quite a lot, and even Gabe's questions were really curated, really well curated. So shout out to STEM Social. Thank you so much for inviting me. And if y'all don't know about STEM Social, please go follow them. I love the name. It's STEM Soul, as in your soul, SOUL, Shawl, right? Social. So social, but with the soul element there. I'm gonna put their, because I think they're only on Instagram. I tried to look for them on Twitter, but I think they're only on Instagram. So I'm gonna put their @ here so that if anybody wants to look them up, you can go and follow them. And you know what? Tell them I sent you. Okay, tell them I sent you. But yeah, that was great. And you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. It looks like we got like a cute little audience. Look, we got somebody on YouTube, we got somebody on Twitch, and we got a few people on on Twitter. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate y'all. I will be doing more of these streams, obviously, throughout this month as we are doing our season 4 of Stimulator Games. And so make sure to tune in. And I think I'm going to do like a live where I go and talk about Sinners, because I cannot get that out of my head. That movie it's something. It's really good. I might go watch it again. Honestly, I really might. But until next time, I won't see you later. I will steam you later.